Hey, we're here.
So we are. Welcome, welcome.
How you doing?
Oh, so good. What about you? Just busy.
Well, busy is good, right?
Busy is good. Well, ideally, busy is good. Hopefully, the markets stay afloat for a little while longer, and then everything will be good.
Better not to look. Better not to look. I've been busy too. I've been busy. I sued a school district on Monday.
Oh, wonderful.
Right on the village of sued the what is it? The town of South Kingstown, which is where my wife grew up and went to school, actually, completely coincidentally, on behalf of the amazing Nicole Solis. And it was like I was going nonstop because we kind of figured out what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, a little bit close to the wire. So, I'm still on a little bit of a high and a little bit of a I'm coasting. Like I had my big achievement, but stuff comes in. You got to deal with it. But really, the week revolves around the stream. Every other week revolves around the transcontinental stream.
And how lucky we all are that it does. Ron, do you get into thought spirals? So like once you've drafted a complaint and filed it, does your brain still get stuck in complaint mode where you're thinking, should I have raised this claim? Should I have included this remedy? Is that right? Should I have cited this?
Never. When I'm done, I'm done. And it might come up that I'll realize at some point, maybe with the help of a total stranger, that I should have included another remedy, or that I should have, that's what motions to dismiss are for. But I mean, it's good to always have someone else that you're working with. And I've got a good team. And in this case, it doesn't hurt that Nicole herself is a lawyer, although she doesn't have experience in Section 1983 litigation. But I remember when I was dating my wife, I said, I bet you're one of those people who after a test went to look up the answers. Right, Jane? And she said, of course. For me, it was, the test is over. There's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. And by the way, that's why she got into Stanford Law School and I didn't, because she really was committed to getting all the answers right. I was committed to going to the next leisure activity.
So is the reason that you chose today's topic because of your lawsuit against the school district?
No, that was unrelated. I have a topic problem. I'm not that, and part of it is because I have opinions on everything. So, but I mean, obviously, I'm a big politico.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me, well, we did J.D. Vance to death 2 weeks ago, but here we've got all this news breaking about this bizarre man, this weird man, who it turns out it seems to be getting weirder and weirder. Although today's theme is mostly the stolen valor stuff.
I am intrigued by the stolen. Here's what intrigues me. I've looked over this guy's repertoire, and he talks a big moderate game and he pushes the progressive ideal. And that's just based on what he's done as governor. From me looking at his voting record while he was in Congress and then his acts as governor, he will say things like, we need to focus on building up the economy, and healthcare should be a choice. It should be optional. There's certain things that you should be able to opt into. And then he goes full steam on the Affordable Care Act and making sure that he's basically progressing it through Congress to the extent that he can. He'll come out and say things like, oh, I support China. And, this I found, do you mind if I start?
We're always We're always starting.
Okay, well, with this one particular issue. So
No, yeah, jump into it for sure.
yeah, so when
I
he's
mean,
a
if you haven't
student,
picked up on this, folks, Danites, the Danites are mentioned in the Bible. You know that.
yes, yes.
I'm a rather unstructured chap. So however you want to set the table, I'm going to eat well. Don't worry.
Well, let me set the table for you, Ron. So here we have Tim Walz, right? He's from BFE, somewhat of a non-entity. He goes and he starts teaching in China under a similar Harvard scholarship to what USA had with Cambridge University. So he goes out to teach in China. And guess what years he goes to teach in China? 1989 to 1990. He comes back and brags about he's never been treated better in his whole life. Loves China. Would go back, 10 out of 10 recommendation. Get this though, 1989, what happened in April, May, and June 1989 China?
Is it the trick question?
No, it's not. It's Tiananmen Square. It's the student riots. It's
right, but he wasn't rioting, so they didn't treat him poorly.
And apparently he's okay with that. And guess what he compliments the most about China?
The trains run on time.
Trains run on time, lack of criminality. He was so impressed. So then what does he come and do as governor? He decides to reform the police and completely slash their budgets during 2020. So, like you do.
Well, right. We don't expect consistency from, but I mean, he's not a particularly, actually, somebody made a very good point in a tweet earlier today asking, how did all of a sudden, and this to some extent bears on our JD Vance discussion. Yeah, of course it does. How did it become weird to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and become here it is. This is from Jeff Clark. Let's throw it up there. Let's have the full experience. And we're going to share that screen. Something like this. Okay. Only in 2016, it was amazing for a presidential candidate, like Hillary Clinton, to be a Yale grad and a Wellesley undergrad. But now it's weird for J.D. Vance to have gone to Yale Law and Trump to have been a Wharton undergrad. And why Jeff Clark posits? Because Kamala and Tim didn't go to fancy schools. So the narrative has to change. I mean, that's an interesting point. I frankly, it's a little bit of a hard point to make because now, I think to a large extent, the bloom is off those schools. I'd also like to know where we got this weird picture. Like in what, it's not alphabetical. What's the order there, and how on earth does Princeton end up last? Okay, whatever.
Maybe it's cost. Cost to benefit ratio, like how much you end up earning by the time you leave versus how much it costs you while you're there. Oh, that's
interesting. In any event, yes, Coleman Black, you picked up on that. Anyway, okay. So back to your table setting now. Okay, so in other words, here's a guy who comes back from China, impressed, kind of like Tom Friedman style, impressed by the lack of criminality. He's not counting the fact that you're a criminal if you think the wrong thing, but he means the lack of violent crime. And where was he in China, though? He was probably in a major city, right?
I believe so. And then it's interesting because he's put on, Nancy Pelosi ends up waiving the rule that a freshman congressman can't serve on multiple committees at the same time. They end up putting him on the Human Rights Committee over China. And guess what? He does nothing. Absolute shocker, right? He does nothing to protect the Uyghur Muslim population, to protect anyone else which is basically everyone who's not a wake up in the morning and praise the CCP member. It impresses me his lack of willingness to say no to China. He's traveled back there, according to him, more than 30 times. He loves China. He thinks that they should be a close trade partner with the United States and not our enemy.
You know, the thing about that is, it isn't necessarily a left-wing or a right-wing kind of position. In other words, unless you're an actual communist, you know what I'm saying? Unless you're an actual, literal communist, because there's a long tradition of criticizing Chinese human rights events from both parties. You'd have to absolutely be, an asset. Exactly your point. That's what military arms says. Straight up commie. Okay, that's the direction that the Democratic Party is going in now. But listen, let's get a little context here. You've been so busy, you might not have seen my incredibly viral tweet.
Oh, I'm so excited to see it now.
It's interesting that you say that you didn't see it.
I haven't seen any. I went from one research project because you saw that Google lost its antitrust suit.
I did see it. I had a whole discussion with Valiant Renegade about it, and it was great. It was a great outcome. Not the discussion was great. I'm sure the discussion was great because I know a little bit about antitrust, and oh gosh, I have so many things to say, and one of them is, here's another one. Like, where does it end? It's really, we don't even really know. We don't have to do anything but just Ron Coleman talking about because I've lived for such a long time. You have to keep that in mind. So I really, at this point, really done everything and opined on everything. Oh, I'm never going to find this screenshot. Okay. I was interviewed for an article in, actually, I'm going to find it. We're going to do this the hard way. Media. Yes. No. Oh, yes. I have things to say on this topic, but I did there she is. This was my quote to Fox News Digital in June 2023, talking about Google and antitrust. I'll let you read it.
Google has corrupted. I can't do your accent though, Ron.
No, we're not asking you to.
Okay, all right,
Great. You're also, you're an octave higher than me, even though I don't have a Valiant Renegade type pipes. But okay, we can do this.
Google has corrupted legitimate competition in the ad tech industry, and this was in 2023. States the DOJ complaint. Ronald Coleman, partner of Dillon Law Group of Newark, New Jersey, told Fox News Digital, if there is any reason to have antitrust laws in the 21st century, Google is the reason. Amen. 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 And I have been saying this specifically, and I'm so glad. And this ties into the CCP and why we hate the CCP as much as we do, and their influence on global politics, on everything. Anyway, Coleman also said, looking at that complaint, it's really impressive heavy lifting. They really did their homework, and they really did. I'll give them credit for that too. It was really impressive to read through the opinion and to see them just pulling from the original complaint. Looking at that complaint, it's really impressive heavy lifting. They really did their homework. There is no question that the breadth and depth of Google's power and its influence all around us is phenomenal, remarkable, untouchable. Absolutely. You can't compare it to anything else in human history. The amount of power and influence that Google wields over all human beings on Earth.
It's more influential than virtually any world government in the world, including in the countries that they are the governments of. Okay. So, yes, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. But we're going to talk about a different deal, which was, oh yes, the viral tweet.
But Ron, it plays into what we're discussing right now, because right now Google is still has the liberty to go about altering elections, as far as I'm concerned, or at least the information that you learn about
Absolutely.
Mr. Walz, which when I do op-eds or I do oppo research for funsies, and I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to do this on this channel, because generally I like to look at the 3 candidates that are up and running and start screenshotting the search results so that I can show the before and after the pick. Because it's interesting to see all of the stories that get buried very quickly. Like one of the stories I read was, oh yeah, Tim Walz is coming to Florida to sell Minnesota or whatever, but first he's got to sell himself, and nobody's that impressed. Like, but if you read it, and this was written from the perspective of a Democrat, and he was going to speak at a Democratic event or a Democrat event in Florida at the time. So it was very interesting.
So, for background, actually, anybody who wants to check out that interview, I put it into the chat, my discussion of the Google complaint or the Google opinion. Okay, so background here. Remember a week ago today, who it looked like was going to be the vice presidential selection?
Mr. Shapiro, I recall.
Mr. Shapiro. And Mr. Shapiro realized that if he was going to be successful in the Democratic Party, he's not from New York, so I shouldn't do a New York Jewish accent, and I can't really do a Pennsylvania. But if he was going to make it in the Pennsylvania in the Democratic Party and help lift his ticket up, he had to downplay his pro-Israel past. And that was kind of unfortunate, because what happened, he ended up having to just be a cheerleader for Mr. Walz. So I tweeted this yesterday morning, up here on top. Poor Josh Shapiro stitched his foreskin back on for nothing.
Oh, Ron! Ron!
And you say you didn't see it, but almost 400,000 Twitter users did.
I mildly disavow. I'm not Jewish, so I can't say anything, but I'm going to disavow in advance.
There's an important thing you need to know, folks, which is that the reference is actually of historical significance. And my friend, Rabbi Nachman Mostovsky, explains it.
Educate me.
Okay, here we go. For those that don't understand, I don't know why I have to do this each time I share. For those that don't understand this awesome tweet from the Ron Coleman, Hellenized Jews and other Jews during history did just that. They did a procedure during the reign of Antiochus. I don't know how you say it. Oh, Ahasuerus or something. The fourth reign, during the era of the Hanukkah story. The Hasmoneans had no patience for them. In other words, because there was this culture of physical beauty that was critical to the Hellenist culture,
right?
And that involved naked sports. And if you were Jewish, you would obviously be distinguishable. So in order to match, in order to look like a proper athlete, guys amazingly would do some kind of procedure. So that was the reference. And you'd be surprised, out of all all the responses that I got on that tweet yesterday, only a few people completely didn't get it. I mean, there's different levels of getting it, but the point is, it's shameful. It's shameful that he was so willing to go the Chuck Schumer route, the Bernie Sanders route, in order to move up in the party. Now, what they're saying today, I don't know if this is spin, is that no. Shapiro turned it down. It was Shapiro who turned it down because he knows this is going nowhere. Now, there's a certain credibility to that because he actually is a smart guy. I'd say he's a super principled guy, although he is more conservative than certainly Kamala Harris. And he's a kid. He's young. He's very young. Right. Like, why should he get involved with these people now? And look, there is a struggle going on within the Democratic Party. Well, it's not going well. That struggle is not going well for it's going well for conservatives. Shapiro was the guy we had to was the guy we had to worry about. He was a bona fide. I mean, I don't think he could touch J.D. Vance in a in a debate, but he was a force to be reckoned with. Walz, it's not going well.
I mean, it's not going foreskin sewing on tragically bad, but it also is not going well. When you said sew on your foreskin, did you ever watch that episode of Seinfeld, or no, Friends, where Joey is going for a part and he puts on a Play-Doh appendage at the end of his member so he can get the part? And the scene cuts and it just shows Joey standing there naked and this little piece of Play-Doh falls on the ground. And long story short, he doesn't get the part.
It sounds like the X-ray machine scene on This Is Spinal Tap.
Oh, I haven't watched Spinal Tap.
Oh, you must see. Okay, we'll give you 2 weeks to spend a little time. You have to. It's old, but you really will. You will, and you need a laugh. You, my dear, need a laugh.
I will go and check it out.
When is the Democratic convention?
I thought they were not going to have one.
Because after all, why bother?
Right. No, I'm serious. I didn't think they were going to have one. I thought that they decided to just skip it since she had inherited all of her votes, that she would need to win the nomination.
No, that doesn't make any sense. Because then you could have said that logic is even stronger when Biden, the incumbent, was going to be nominated.
Ron, you're asking me to understand communist procedure, and I don't understand the lefty procedure of things. It seems a little anti-democratic to me, but to each their own. It's all right.
No, they're having a convention. In fact, I was playing with the idea of trying to get in.
That's right.
On press, with press credentials. I think I might get my ass kicked. I'm an old man now. I can't, I was never particularly effective with the physical, conflict. I mean, I took care of myself when it was necessary, but that was, I think, 8th grade.
You can pay me to go, Ron. All I need to do is paint my hair pink. That's easy.
Right.
Yeah, I just dye my hair pink, maybe put on some fake piercings. I can blend in so well. I'll tell you what, Ron, if I could, with a straight face, argue for the Democratic position and could do so without testing my fate with God, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would do it in a heartbeat. I would make so much money.
You'd make so much money live streaming it, in other words.
Oh, I would live stream it. I would grift. I would grift the Democrats and I'd grift the Republicans. I would be the best. political commentator. I'd have so much fun if I actually could pretend to believe
Yeah.
half of the stuff.
I should have thought of it a little bit earlier. Anyway, yeah, my research indicates that they have not canceled the Democratic convention. But come on, somebody.
You should have sent me, Ron. It would have been like sending me to Nineveh, and I would have done so well. I wouldn't end up in a whale. You would have had a great time. Everybody would have had a great time.
Yeah, we should have. We could have, used our vast, income from live streaming.
Exactly.
to finance this trip. And I just saw something here as I was doing research on the convention, which is interesting because, we have a tendency to say, well, nothing matters. Nothing matters because the media is in the tank. Well, according to Joey, who I don't know, CNN is beginning to discuss Tim Walz's stolen valor problem. Let's make sure this gains steam and destroys him. Okay, that's just his opinion. But there are a lot of veterans out there. And there are a lot of families of veterans out there. And it's not only that the guy appears to have exaggerated his involvement in the more assertive aspects of military service. I mean, you do have to give some credit to someone who's in the service, even as a National Guardsman for 20-something years. I always regretted that I didn't do that. I mean, obviously I'm JAG material at best. Okay, I get that. But I did have that discussion when I was almost like in my early 30s, when I was just beginning to reach the end of when I could do it. I didn't think my wife would go for it. And then she told me later when I disclosed this to her that, oh no, you definitely should have done that. That would have been great. I think she would have liked, I mean, let's face it, men look great in uniforms,
I've always said I should really join the military so I can become a recruiter. I'd make so much money as a recruiter because I have a talent for getting young men to join the military in extraordinary numbers.
That is a very interesting. I have a talent for getting young men to join the military. In other words, after you break their hearts, they join the French Foreign Legion. Is that what it is?
No.
What does that mean?
The benefits of military service, and I explained to them also that all of the hot nurses that they think are super attractive who are in nursing school right now, and all of the hairstylists, all of the ladies that they're attracted to just so happen to be very attracted to men in uniform. And all they have to do is go in and put in their time. I said, look, you could even go sign up for the reserves, talk to your recruiter, figure out exactly what you want. I said, you may never get deployed. You get your school paid for. You get a down payment on your car if you want. You can go and enjoy the rest of your life. And you get to have that nice little shiny star that says, hey, I served in the military, even if it's only for 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, however long it may be. But I 10 out of 10 recommend military service to all young men. That was until our government started to go more commie expansionist. That concerns me. General expansion I can handle. It's the more communist aspect of the expansion that I can't, because then you get the ingrained bureaucrats in the military that you absolutely cannot get out.
Well, but also, I mean, the military has become this woke nightmare.
Yeah.
We're straying here. I mean, so one of the interesting things though that I learned about Tim Walz's military service is that not only did he exaggerate, and not only did he, by what really seems to be clear at this point, he actually quit when, and again, he had the option of quitting, but when it looked like he was going to be deployed to Iraq, that's when he decided the time had come to run for Congress. Okay. Oh yeah, no. I mean, that's pretty well documented at this point. But what I've learned, and I'm trying to find what I've learned now, is that he was really poorly regarded. In other words, there are certain sort of like awards and like badges that you get just by showing up, and then he didn't even get those. Like,
Oh, no.
yeah. I gotta find this. But apparently, he wasn't even particularly good at what it was that he was doing. Again, I'm a guy who didn't serve a minute. I never risked being deployed to Iraq, so I recognize that I have to be careful. But I certainly can quote my my friends and fellow and followers and co-followers on this. Let's get back to all right. So look, that's the stolen valor issue.
Oh, that okay. I mean, good for him for serving, and at least he was consistent because he was very anti-Iraq anything. He was very anti uh, further involvement in the Middle East in terms of military involvement at the time. Obviously, his opinions have changed a little bit, or at least seemingly so. He came out initially in support of Israel, and he's since toned back that rhetoric quite a bit to the degree of him telling Israel to stop defending itself.
I mean, he wouldn't admit that was what he was doing. I'm sure he would say that every country has a right to self-determination. Listen, if he in his state, and his state is Wisconsin, right? No, Wisconsin is Gretchen Whitmer. Come on, how'd you let me get away with that?
Minnesota. I was waiting. I know it'd sink in just a second. We both had a busy week.
He is in Mogadishu. To even acknowledge that there could be such a thing as a Jewish state, frankly, I mean, that's not even really an acceptable position anymore. That's colonialism and the whole thing. But I don't want to get into that crap. I want to talk high level on the politics of Walz. The Democrat constituencies that are being chosen over the ones that would have favored Shapiro don't care about the valor stuff. Would you agree? I don't think they care.
I don't think anyone actually cares as much. And I hate to say that, but I'm going to be honest here. Yep. If Google can successfully bury his record and the details of his record, most voters, especially Democrat voters, are not well informed. And what I mean by that is that they're low information voters. The information that they have access to is what they focus on. They don't go seeking out additional information, generally speaking. Republicans, generally speaking, are somewhat the same. I don't think that his pick is going to be as consequential as people think it will be. I don't think that the VP picks should be all that consequential in the first place. I think where it mattered was where you had two giants, and it was a toss up on the VPs. Here we have Kamala Harris, who's coming in with money, fresh energy, young blood, all of the media support you could imagine, all of the celebrity support you could imagine. Everyone who backed Biden is now backing Kamala without question, without any questions, as a matter of fact, from the media or anyone else. There are questions that I have about who's running the country right now while Kamala's out making money.
Listen, my conservative libertarian friend. Excise from your vocabulary the term running the country. God runs the world. And presidents, whatever the hell they run, it sure as hell isn't the country. They don't even run the government. Donald Trump didn't even run the White House. And most presidents really don't. Just a thought exercise. But yeah, who's running the United States government? I mean, it is that is, on the one hand, it's scary. On the other hand, it's comforting that
It should be very comforting.
things hum along.
Things hum along regardless, but I don't think that it's a coincidence that things are falling apart as quickly as they are at the same time. And I mean in general, right? Where the White House really should be making statements, whether that be in foreign policy, the market, et cetera, just silence, absolute dead air, just complete silence while she's going about trying to fundraise, which says a lot, I think, about the last 4 years that we've had as a country. That when Kamala Harris is out fundraising, busy trying to gain money for and support for her own campaign, that's why she's not doing TV interviews. That's why she's not going out there and making her case to the public just quite yet,
Amazing.
except for today. It's because she doesn't have to. She's going out there and making money. She'll wait until it's time to talk policy, until she has time to get Waltz kind of in line and they can figure out what woke policy they're comfortable discussing at this point before they go more moderate.
I want to suggest to you that, I put the screen up a couple of minutes ago. CNN is discussing the stolen valor stuff.
Really?
When they, when they smell blood, when they smell blood, they, here we go. Okay, I'll put it up again because I guess I must have gotten distracted and not gotten to that point because that was why I really put it up. CNN is beginning to discuss it. That's the real point here, is that because there is a suspicion that perhaps Walz isn't going to even make it either. That, in other words, they might smell blood. So, hold pin that. I want to actually address, and I see that actually Dice Media is very concerned. He wants to know more about the facts. Yeah, he makes a good point that CNN's really a small audience, but fair enough. Let me just show you. This is what I was getting at in case you folks think, and Danny would never think this because she knows how I operate, but in case you think I'm just winging it, and it's a lot of terminology that I don't have familiarity with. I cannot overemphasize how disliked Tim Walz must have been to have left his unit with an RCOM as an E8. Okay, an E8 is essentially a rank classification. Cernovich explains, when a command sergeant major retires from the Minnesota National Guard, the adjutant general shows up, and the CSM gets a commanding sergeant major gets a Legion of Merit. Tim Walz left with an RCOM. So an RCOM, what is an RCOM? Not even a meritorious service medal. Every vet knows what that means. Well, guess what? Danny and Ron are not vets. So Tom Sauer says, well, if you know, you know. Okay, fine. We don't know, stupid. So this fellow explains, so what does it mean? It means he's a shitbag. It'd be like leaving the Navy without a Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, but almost impossible. In other words, this is just like basically not even getting a participation medal, a trophy. In any event, it's leaking through, but I mean, there's arguably a more important issue. That's not the issue. It's the one that you really were concerned with, Danny, which is, does it really matter at all? Is it really the intelligence agencies running everything, or is it really the press and they don't really care? We saw around, there were some moments there. Now they buried the whole Trump assassination attempts thing, and they've buried. I mean, the guy who took over is the guy who turned down the resources. I mean, it's a complete joke.
They're still burying it. They're still burying it, just like they buried the cocaine that they found at the White House.
But apparently, did you see the story that Cheadle wanted to just flush it away?
Get rid of it, just throw it away. Who cares? Oh, you got a partial DNA? You got a partial DNA on that? Oh, well, let's let's throw it away. No longer interested. You got a partial DNA match. Let's go ahead and throw it away now. And there are multiple people who are leaking that. It's not just one informant. There are several informants who are all confirming that that was the case. And that had to have been frustrating for them because it's not like the Secret Service does a ton of investigative work. And it's clear that they put some work into this. They had levers or levels, they had measurements, they had photos. They took it very seriously. Apparently, Cheadle did too and decided it was time to get rid of it.
Shitbags. The good word that came up in that previous post, and it's pretty evocative. Back to Mr. Walz. Someone actually said in the chat, what about the? At least he's not as bad as Tim Kaine. Actually, I thought he was Tim Kaine. What exactly is the difference between Tim Walz and Tim Kaine? What's the difference?
Well, one's the governor of Minnesota and insisted that they have universal school lunches. And then he got caught up in a huge scam that was run by one of these nonprofits that were supposed to be providing said lunches. And they ended up taking from the feds $250 million, which Tim Walz said he was responsible for. I just want him to pay out of his campaign funds back to the rest of the American people that $250 million. If he's responsible, which he is, because he's the one who approved the funding.
You're talking about Walz now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm saying, what's conceptually the difference between Tim Kaine and Tim Walz?
Oh, no, I don't.
Someone said, that maybe Kaine is a little bit more loco. But
yeah, people in my chat are saying a different brand of crazy.
People are also saying in the chat that that some people are having perceiving me having a mic problem, which I think I also had during Valiant Renegade. I'll have to look at that afterward. Maybe I might also be shouting too much. Are you getting interference? What?
I'm getting a little bit of it sounds mechanical. And the reason I say that is because it sounds like it's making like a zzz, zzz, zzz at the end of everything that you say.
Okay. Well,
I think that's Danny's sound effects. Take it for what it's worth. It's static.
Okay. Well, I'm also going to automatically adjust mic volume. So just, whatever you can do. It's tolerable. Thank you, Num Num. Okay. So, all right. So you did some research because you're very responsible. You're a lawyer.
Try.
What else should we talk about in the category of Tim Walz?
I think it's remarkable how unremarkable the atrocities he perpetrated as governor were. So shutting down all of the schools and then claiming later at an interview that kids had only missed 10 days of in-school learning in the state of Minnesota during an hour-long interview in which he was asked multiple questions. It was very clear they were asking about his restrictions on schools during COVID. The $100 visa program that he instituted, you go and you get your vaccine and you'll get $100 visa voucher. He also did and that's why I say it's remarkable how unremarkable these things are in hindsight, because every Democrat was doing this. He also had a snitch line. Do you remember that? Down in California, I think New York too, snitches get rewards. And so people were calling in on each other,
yes.
like they're having COVID parties. They're over there without masks on. It's like,
what fun.
And everybody was getting some. And so that was going on. His lack of response to the BLM riots, his failure to respond at all. Most of Minnesota was on fire. They're major cities. So all of those things together, I think, really speak to what a disaster he was for the state of Minnesota. But Minnesotans love him because they're all Democrats. They're all, born and dyed in the wool. It's not a very purple state. And even for it not being a purple state, his last congressional run, he won by like a very small margin against a Republican. So, we'll see how things play out. But the guy I hate people like this. I hate people who claim to be moderate and who are actually extreme in policy. I don't make any assertions that I'm not very much libertarian, very much conservative. If you think that's extreme, then it's extreme, I suppose, right? If you come off as a moderate Democrat and moderate actually means progressive, just be honest. Just say, yes, I'm a progressive. There's things he did I like. So he tried to push for legalization and signed into law legalization of marijuana in his state. He's pushed for funding for IVF, which I support. I'm okay with that. Some other things I'm not a fan of, right? He has 100% scoring from Planned Parenthood. He's absolutely a huge advocate for abortion rights. What else?
Is it possible to be a Democrat nominee for national office and not have that?
No.
No.
To your point, no. To your point, no. He also pushed for red flag laws in his state and got them successfully passed and signed into law, along with a bunch of other restrictions that make it very difficult to purchase and own a firearm. Let's see. There was a ton that he pushed for and did that screams progressive, such as supporting trans rights for kids, passing legislation or signing legislation that would put tampons in little boys' bathrooms, things of that nature that give me the ick and make me very, very uncomfortable. And
which probably in China, in other words, that seems that kind of groupthink would have been the kind of thing that he would have picked up in China. And going back to your earlier comments, he's comfortable with that sort of awfulness.
He truly is. And I talk on my channel for our members only streams. We do cult reviews, and I talk about the BITE model, which is what you use to determine whether or not a religion would be considered a high demand religion, going into cult category versus just a regular sort of what you would expect in terms of lower demand religions, higher demand organizations, lower demand organizations. And the BITE model, which talks about behavioral, information, thought, and emotional control, was developed during the communist revolution in China. It was based on observations of mind control, groupthink, and group organization during that period. And it just so happens to be extremely applicable to other forms of cult ideology and the way in which we control the thinking, information, and emotions and behaviors of others. And so I haven't gotten to political cults yet. We are getting there, which I distinguish from personality cults. You can have a personality cult and not have a political cult. You can have a political cult that is separate from personality. And he very much finds himself there. I see a lot of people saying, well, Danny, you said that the military went commie. What do you mean? Well, because Marxism hates men and women, the distinctions between men and women. They want them to be perfectly equal. Marxism demands the elimination of the role of motherhood. And this is a through line. And they hate the concept of a mother role because it's an oppressed group in the collective consciousness. It's a product of capitalism, according to Marxist ideology. And that ideology is embedded in the military right now. So I'm sorry, but that's sort of my position on this issue. But like I said, there are some good things that he's done that I think most people who are more libertarian minded would appreciate, like passing legalization. And Ron, I am not a single voter issue gal, but there are a lot of people.
Single issue voter gal.
Single issue voter gal. I am not that gal, but there are a lot of people in this world who are, and they really care about abortion. They really care about legalization. And he could win over some moderate libertarians with both of those issues, possibly.
You're positing, right? I mean, look, once you come into the world of the single issue voter, then there are no questions,
right?
Then you can't say they will vote for someone who is who's statist. rather than, because of one issue. Well, if they're by definition, if they're one issue voter, then they're a one issue voter. There is actually another issue with him. I'll throw this one up. Sometimes it's hard to figure out where somebody's coming from. And Yashar Ali is an example of someone who I really can never know where he's coming from. ABC News has obtained audio where then President Trump expressed support for Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's handling of the George Floyd protests. Okay, I'm very happy with the last couple of days, Tim. You called up big numbers, and the big numbers knocked them out so fast it was like bowling pins.
Wait, what?
Wow, so you see, now Trump can't criticize him. Oh, really? Let's look at the story. Let's look at the story. I'm there. Add to stage. There we go. This is what really happened. Trump had to convince him that Minneapolis was going to be ashes if he didn't accept deployment of the National Guard. So, even libertarians want to live. Just another media trope that's out there. I don't know what to tell you. What is remarkable, though, is that, look, Josh Shapiro wasn't the only possible relatively moderate Democrat. They chose someone who is ideologically perfectly aligned with Kamala Harris, just as Trump chose someone who's essentially ideologically aligned with him.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping in mind that Trump is not particularly conservative.
Yep.
He's just conservative compared to the media and compared to academia and compared to the Democrats.
Yep.
But, a lot of the never Trumpers consider themselves, true conservatives. I just want to appreciate the appreciation of Slow-Mo Savage, who laughed so hard at my Shapiro X post. Thank you. My initial reaction in replies was everyone who said that they laughed on the first, when I realized I had something viral going on, when it hit 100,000 in the first hour, I said, I'm going to just retweet references to spitting out coffee or spitting out coffee memes. And let me take this opportunity to welcome Hunch the Dirty Roofer. I love that name. And one of the things I love about it is that the meter of it corresponds to Puff the Magic Dragon.
Hunch the dirty roofer. Yeah.
Right?
Hunch the dirty roofer.
We need one more and we'll be Peter, Paul, and Mary. One more. Tammy.
Hey, guess what? I've got a hammer. You want a hammer in the morning?
Oh, I had guys hammering in the morning in my house this morning. We installed a drain. They call them French drains, but it's not really a French drain. But because the water, forget it. It's rained a lot. And I want to thank my friend Valiant Renegade, who I think probably popped out by now. I've thrown this up a couple of times, but for the super chat of $5, and this was a gag that he made at the very beginning. And of course, this is one of your boys dropping a like for Ron, and I thank you. I think he must have come through your side. Yeah, he was so gracious to me the first time I hung out with you.
Emil is great.
Anyway, we do appreciate your super chats, folks, and we encourage them. Here you go, here's another one. Torgo is the YouTube member.
We love Torgo the White.
Torgo the White. Okay, so you have this ideologically like both parties. I mean, so let's ignore where the real wings are and say you've got this Trump, Vance, Trumpist wing, MAGA wing, and you've got this commie wing on the Democrat side. No one is, and of course, so point number one, I was about to say no one's shooting for the moderates. Well, guess what? As you pointed out, a lot of this is stuff that just God created in this world so that streamers would have content. Right? I mean, how much does it really matter? How much does it really matter? It's really the vote really, but I think there is a sort of holistic feel that a ticket takes on with the two as opposed to the one. You know, it could be wrong. Jingleberry, thank you for dropping a like as well. You are truly a great American.
Jingleberry is great. We love Jingleberry.
Jingleberry, I love that your friends are becoming my friends. So now there's this interesting geometry. How do you reach that middle? Okay, we've got a hard 30, 35 on each side. And then you've got the middle. And of course, the middle, I mean, we're talking about 6 states. That's where the middle really is. We're told. I mean, what do we really know? How much stock are we putting in polls, Danny?
0, always 0. And I'm okay with all of this. Let the Democrats spend all of their money on the presidential race, all of their focus on the presidential race. And Republicans need to hurry up and go grab those seats that are going to be coming available this year in a way that never has been available to them before. There is a fervor on the MAGA side I've never seen before. Republicans get out there and freaking vote and vote down the ballot from start to finish. If Republicans are smart, they will go and grab up those seats because the Democrats are thoroughly distracted right now and they're panicking, they're rushing, they are moving all of their pieces together on the presidential picks. So why are we wasting our time?
But is that true? Is that what's happening? Yeah, I mean, because you know the Democrats, a lot of retirements on the Democrat side. Like, can you flesh this out? Can you tell me what you're seeing? Like, what
I'm seeing is I am seeing activation in California like I've never seen on the Republican side, where Republicans are walking around wearing MAGA hats. So if that's happening, then I could see a ton of state seats that are very well open in state legislatures. And if they can grab up those seats while they're active, while people are engaged and interested, that would be a tremendous win for the Republicans. And not just at each state level, but also on the congressional side at a national level. If they can go in there and snipe them, just like we just lost a squad member yesterday. The Democrats lost a squad member. Let them go further left. I am so okay with Tim Walz. My only issue with him is that he's not more devoutly progressive. I want him to be along the lines of Kamala Harris. To go vote. They're invested. Why are they?
Where's the daylight? Where's the daylight you're referring to, Danny? What's he going to move on here?
He needs to come out pro-Hamas. That's what he needs to do. Pro-Hamas, go all in on it.
All in. Well, yeah, right.
Go all in on gender transition surgeries and affirming care for minors. He needs to go all in on, you name it. Education. He can go all in on debt forgiveness on student loans.
He will.
He will. And I want him to double down. I want him to triple down. I want him to go all in on Ukraine. I want him going all in on increasing taxes to make sure that we provide abortions on demand nationally, a national codification of killing babies. I think that's a win-win for everyone in the room. Just let him go for it. I think he needs to let his freak flag fly. That's all I'm saying. I'm not asking for a lot. I just want him to come and be himself. I accept you, Tim Walz. I accept you. Welcome to the race. Please feel free to speak. Please give me all you've got. We want to hear your ideas, and may they be as progressive as possible. Thank you.
And thank you, been there, done that, for loving the Danny and Ron combo.
Been there, done that. You better give me $5. You're stealing my money.
You know what? Because I'm the flavor of the month. They've gotten used to you. But keep in mind,
calling me stale? You think my audience is not intrigued?
Listen, I don't have much more time in this world. Okay. I need to rake it in now. You have your whole, just think of how many decades you're going to remember that guy, the bald guy from New Jersey, who used to do streams with you. What was his name? In any event, yeah, this is, yes, Torgo. Danny isn't stale. She's freshalicious.
Freshalicious. Make them boys go loco. So what we need is more progressives on the left. I think that's the answer to solve all of their problems. I think it's a mistake to call Kamala Harris not Black, by the way. This is a side note. She is Jamaican. Her family is Jamaican. She's definitely Black. But they were also slave owners. And it's not just on one side of her family. It's not, a lot of people have posited, oh, well, it was a slave owner who married a slave. That's simply untrue. She had another family ancestor who came from Ireland, and who, during the abolishment of slavery in Jamaica, also had a bunch of indentured servants during that time. We'll just call it that. And her father is very proud of their Jamaican history and ancestry. So I think that the Republicans need to talk more about her being Black.
Oh, about her. So this goes back to another point. This is the first week. There was this debate on the rightist, in the rightosphere. Why are we talking about the race? People want to hear about issues. Let's start out with one thing. People really don't necessarily want to hear about issues. People want to hear about whatever entertains them.
Yes.
And we're not really talking about the end of this sentence, because I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, people aren't talking policy, they're talking entertainment issues. And I'm guessing that what you're going to say is that still matters when it comes to election time, because those are the things, the conversations that will stick in people's minds.
It is true. Those are the things. Well, I find it hard to believe that people are going to really make decisions based on, like, these are points to score. What kind of asshole would decide at the end of the day? I was pretty good with Kamala, but then I found out that her ancestors were slave owners. What kind of idiot would make a decision on that base? Her ancestors?
Oh,
her ancestors? Why would you?
Ron, the problem is not that her ancestors are slavers. That's not the problem. The problem is that she herself carried on the tradition. Okay, Ron? She took a bunch of men who had already served their time in jail and forced to extend their sentences so that they could go and labor in the hot sun and in the fires of California. The problem is that she's carrying on that ancestry, and she claims to understand the Black population. As a matter of fact, or the American Black feeling and sentiment and heritage. But at the same time, as a matter of fact, in her during her speech, she even started to mimic. She started to code switch and tried this eubonics language type thing. And I was like, woman, you have never had that accent. Where did that accent come from? So it's not just the lying about her background. It's not just the over exaggeration, over dependence on her identity and the left's dependence on identity politics. It's that she herself is a slaver. She herself. And then on top of that,
that's very literary.
She also pushed for what is it called? Reparations. She initially said, I love reparations. I think reparations are great. And my response is, well, then start paying up, sweetie. May you be the first.
But again, but these are great debate points. But who's going to make that? Who's going to make? I guess there are people. Listen, you get these. I think part of the idea is you do make these debate points because people are always looking for the knockout. You know how many adversaries the great Muhammad Ali knocked out in his heavyweighting career? I don't know the number, but it wasn't an incredible number. He was not a knockout fighter. He won by scoring. Score. Hit the body, hit the head, hit the chest, hit the arms. It's okay. And my friend Kurt Schlichter points out, if that's not your thing, if you don't want to talk about the race thing, you don't want to talk about the sleeping your way to the top, then that's not for you. Okay, but it's for someone, and you can develop your own channel. Speaking of channels, been there, done that. Dropped another $10 in for on tithing and loyalty. Later.
Thank you, been there, done that.
Thank you, Ben. And Danny on memberships from John Duncan. That is awesome. That is awesome. And Emil comes back in. I'm not really sure what he's getting at here, but I'm not going to read it. Oh, but wait, there's more.
This is important, and I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on this.
I oppose the Oxford comma.
Oh, Ron, my dear. Oh, Ron. Oh, God. I'm disappointed. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. Why do you oppose the Oxford comma? I'm so embarrassed. I had to turn off my camera. I'm furious. Look at my ears. They're turning red. Look at I'm turning red. This is my justice rash. Yeah.
So it's like this. When I was first learning to use punctuation, we're talking the late 60s. I intuitively used the Oxford comma because indeed it makes perfect sense.
Doesn't it?
And I remember my father of blessed memory telling me, you don't put a comma there because in American usage, and I am an American, we do not use the Oxford comma. And in fact, the Oxford comma is not only more logical, it prevents a great deal of confusion. But it's not the way I've been writing those many years. And when I see it, I find it jarring. I'm waiting for another thing in the list after that comma. In other words, I'm used to the American style. Let me ask you something. Would you not agree that compared to the imperial system of weights and measurements, that the metric system is immensely more rational and less prone to causing confusion? It's also modular. You can go from volume measurements to, because it's, even the temperature is based on the boiling point of water. I mean, and it's based on the circumference. I mean, it's the beauty of the metric system is that it's like the empirical truth about the world that we live in. And yet, what American goes around talking about kilometers and litras? Litre. You know that word appears, by the way, in the Babylonian Talmud. That's how old that word is for a unit of measurement. the Oxford comma, if I had a heritage that was consistent with the use of the Oxford comma, I would defend it to the death. But listen, I realize that there are some ideas that will not outlive me. This may be one of them. I might be the last one standing. I answered honestly. I thought that our relationship could. She really is pink. My God.
I forgive you.
That's beautiful.
I forgive you.
That is beautiful.
I forgive you. And we can move on, except for the fact, and the only reason I can forgive you is because you admit that you're wrong, but that it is a preference that you have developed over time. I can deal with as long as I
no, but
understand.
there is no. I don't see how there could possibly be an argument from utility. It doesn't really. It doesn't make any sense. Comes now in Old English. Well, actually, Allegan News, I got to tell you, I have been fighting very hard in the New Jersey courts for a requirement that we utilize Norman French for all, at least for pleadings, and I'm getting nowhere. We've got a question here.
So you're a fan of the comes now?
No, it's ridiculous. And
Okay,
I'll tell you what else. I'll tell you what else. I'm actually kind of I'm an old-fashioned guy, if you haven't picked that up. I go for formality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not wearing a tie. Like I'm really going. It's the summer.
You're laid back. This is laid back, Ron.
Yeah. When I have to appear before an appellate court, you're supposed to say, "May it please the court."
Mm-hmm.
It sticks in my throat.
I hate it.
It's such bullshit. I
hate it.
May it please the court. I have a fucking right to get up here and argue my case. What it doesn't have. It's not gonna. I know it's not gonna please you. I'm almost always losing my appeals. But I hate that phrase. But apparently, you know what I do like though. Hear ye, hear ye.
I like hear ye, hear ye. I do like that. And I also like yay or nay. What else?
Wait. You know what we should let them in on, Danny?
Yes.
We should let them in on the truth about the gavel. Have you ever seen a judge use a gavel?
I have seen judges yell at people and slam their gavel multiple times, but apart from that, that's the only time. And it might be in criminal
practice. It might be more common in criminal practice where things get raucous.
Oh, it was in civil law, but it was family law. So there's that.
That's not civil. Nothing civil
about on the border of criminal. It's basically criminal law.
Okay, so I'm going to let you, as the advocate for the Oxford comma, explain to Storm Crow, who is paying $10 to ask this question. Got to respect that.
Yes.
Explain the Oxford comma. It's the most, it's obvious, but I mean, it's really simple. Not obvious.
You need to show John Duncan's super chat first because it is the opposite of the Oxford comma.
Okay, we're going to come back to
we'll come back
to John Duncan.
So what we are doing with the Oxford comma is we are creating in the listing of items a separation on the last conjunctive item. So, for example, I like strawberry, comma, Oreo, comma, chocolate, comma, vanilla, comma, and maple ice cream. If instead I were to say, I like strawberry, comma, Oreo, comma, chocolate, comma, vanilla, comma, pistachio, and maple ice cream without that final comma, you would naturally think that maple and pistachio ice cream are combined, that is one conjunctive unit in a list.
So what our founding fathers decided when they threw off the yoke of the British tyrant? who was a kraut anyway, was that well-educated Englishmen, such as ourselves, would know in a sentence that says, please bring me a pencil, eraser, and notebook, that there's no such thing as eraser and notebook. The problem is with the pistachio that's not always the case. Sometimes there is a cereal, and it's like algebra. In other words,
cream. You would put cookies and cream. And if you wanted to use the Oxford comma in that place, it wouldn't seem as natural to your defense because you would be saying, I like strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, and cookies and cream.
Randall, you are very generous and your gratitude is appreciated.
Thank you, Randall.
You too.
But pull up the Second Amendment because that is where the Oxford comma shines.
This is see, this is what I saw in this girl, folks. She is a special. Okay.
Because you had mentioned our forefathers throwing off the yoke of oppression and the British government, and here's a perfect example. If you zoom in just a bit, a well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to secure of a free state, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. What does this mean? It means that there is a separation between a well-regulated militia, which is necessary for the security of a free state, and the right of the people to keep and bear arms. So rather than making the right of the people to keep and bear arms connected to the first part of the statement, I'm using very simple terms here. In order for those two things to be separate, you must include these commas. If our founding fathers had indeed intended for these things to be connected, they would lead this sentence by saying, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, a well-regulated militia shall, the right to keep and bear arms as a regulated militia shall not be infringed. They would have erased it or they would have reworded it, but they didn't. They included this extra comma here to separate these two separate items so that they're not to be confused. The right to keep and bear arms, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
I hope we don't send any of you into a coma.
I'm sure we have. It has happened. My chat knows how much I love the Oxford comma. The appeals courts have confirmed that I am right on multiple occasions.
So there is a concept in statutory interpretation, and it's also used when interpreting contracts, where courts and advocates distinguish or attempt to distinguish between disjunctive and conjunctive language.
Right.
Is this next chunk meant to go with that chunk?
Right.
Or is it continuous? And if good draftsmanship, avoids that problem, but good draftsmanship is, I don't want to say it's more the exception than the rule, but it's a big ask.
It is an exception. It is rare.
And one of the fun things is when somebody gets a contract, I do a lot of civil litigation, and people want to save money and not have a lawyer draft a contract. They'll get one off the internet, or they'll reuse one from another deal.
Or they'll use AI, chat GPT, baby. Draft me a contract.
Those people pay my mortgage. Because, what can I tell you? We know what we're doing. You don't.
And it can save you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to have a correctly worded contract. And, if you think that these little clauses in the contract are going to somehow, that the judge is not going to take that into account with the rest of the contract, you have another thing coming. even though you put in there that, look, there's a severability clause. If one isn't enforceable, then the other ones still are. The judge will still look at the entirety of the document when looking at interpretation. So
Now, I imagine that our friend Mr. Walz is a really big Second Amendment guy, huh?
do you mean like hating it? Do you mean regulating it to its death?
I'm being facetious. He must be horrible on guns.
He is horrible on guns. Hates them. Don't like them at all.
Have we exhausted the topic of Tim Walz? I mean, is there?
He's kind of like, listen, he's like vanilla ice cream. He goes well with other topics. He mixes well with almost anything. Him on his own, he on his own, he's just not very interesting. He's
Well, it's not
not.
only that. He seems like kind of like a marshmallow. You know, he's like, have we had well, actually, Vance is kind of a man of girth to some extent also, isn't he?
I mean, they have a long tradition. There's a long tradition of girthy men in politics.
And presidential politics, since when's the most recent one?
Well, let's see. There was Taft.
Oh, okay. Even I don't remember Taft. Okay.
You should. I think he actually got stuck in a tub. I think that was his claim to fame. He was too large for his tub in the White House.
Not true. Not true. Not true. urban legend.
Did you ever hear that when you were growing up?
Yes. No, and I think it was the great Simon Whistler, who does all those great videos on so many topics. I don't know how he possibly generates them all, but that was among the stories that he debunked.
Oh, I'm glad that they debunked it. It must have been a fat cat capitalist quip.
Taft, President of the United States, Chief Justice of the United States. What?
What? I'm sorry. Keep going.
That's a pretty nice resume.
Yeah. It's lovely. Lovely. Absolutely adore it.
Okay. But I mean,
seriously, Cheney was a little.
Let's go backwards. Okay. Biden's a slim guy.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is fat.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
There you have it. He's also very tall, though. He's a man's
man.
Yeah.
And listen, he got whizzed by that bullet. It's an extraordinary thing that happened the way that it did. But there's a certain robustness to it. In other words, I don't think the bullet really had an effect on his physical strength. He didn't lose 14 quarts of blood, but he's a real guy. Okay. He's a real bull of him. He's a bull of a man. He's a big guy. Nonetheless, I was hoping that he would show up for this campaign for 2024, slim down. I think it would do wonders for him. But look, it's hard to lose weight when you're older.
The energy, Ron. Here's the thing. Once you've hit a status quo that works for your height and weight distribution, and this is a guy who never sleeps. If he were to lose weight right now and go on a diet, he'd lose energy. If he's anything like me. Oh yeah. Like when I hit my goal weight, my ideal weight for my height is about 132, 136. I'm ideal. I'm perfect. I'm running. I'm chugging along. Life is great. If I drop below 132 to 124, which is even more ideal and more flattering on my figure, I'm dead in the water. I can't stand up. I can't walk around. I have zero energy. I don't feel comfortable. I don't like it. And the same is true when I gain weight. I just feel frumpy. I have no energy. I feel stuck. I do think he's lost a tiny bit of weight. And it may be all the golfing, but I could be imagining that. I do like that Vance looks like Grant.
Looks like what?
Doesn't he look like General Grant? Hold on.
That's interesting.
I think he looks identical. And when I saw JD Vance's picture for the first time, I thought, oh my gosh, this guy looks so similar. it tripped me up. I was like, is there some conspiracy going on here? If you just go and look up a picture of Ulysses S. Grant and compare him to J.D. Vance, the similarity is uncanny to me.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I see what you're getting at.
See?
I'll share.
Welcome to the ADHD. We're not ADHD. We're entertaining you with different topics. We're a smorgasbord.
No, we're just having we're a couple of unusually smart friends having a conversation. So I guess I should really line them up with JD, huh?
Yeah. Danny on for ADHD. Yeah, you could probably I'm sure there's a Wikipedia article with my face next to it.
So
there's
him
JD.
and
I mean, that one's, I don't know how fair that is. He's got his mouth open, but.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, there you go.
Certainly, if you were casting a movie, you would not, you'd have to consider J.D. Vance for the role.
I would think so. And I'm not a casting director or anything like that, but I do think he looks very similar to Ulysses S. Grant.
Amazing. That changes everything.
It changes everything. Does that make you like him more or less now, Ron?
Grant is famous for many things. One of the things he did, was signing an order banning the Jews from certain areas that were controlled by Union troops.
Interesting.
Which I really think someone just stuck in front of him and he signed. Like I never really held it against him, to tell you the truth. Also, you really have to. You can't be historic. You can't judge people by modern standards. Yeah, you didn't know about Grant and the Jews order?
No, I know there was a lot of anti-Jewish people in his
General Order number 11. General Order number 11.
I'm not the biggest Grant gal for other reasons.
Yeah, because you believe that that Lincoln was wrong.
I didn't say that, Ron.
Okay, good. Because I'm not going to have any of that here. General Order number 11. Major General U.S. Grant, during the Vicksburg campaign, expelling Jews from Grant's military district.
Wow.
To reduce corruption among Union Army personnel, stop the illicit trade in Southern produced cotton, which he perceived as being run mostly by Jews and other unprincipled traders.
It must be the Jews.
Oh, dearie.
Do they talk about his war crimes before they were called war crimes activities?
No, that's right. Well, in those days, come on. I mean, what was it? What was that awful Confederate prison camp? I mean, the pictures, it would look like something from the Holocaust. Confederate prison camp. We never have to wonder anything here. Andersonville. Thank you, Torgo. Damn, you good. Oh my God. I'm not going to even put up this picture. Google Andersonville. You will be absolutely. Now remember, the South was starving.
Yeah.
And they were, but again, we didn't have the Geneva Convention. It is an amazing, it's kind of an interesting thing because so much is attributed in terms of war crimes to racism. The brown man, the yellow man. The American Civil War was fought between brothers. Same racial stock.
Yep.
For the most part. And plenty of war crimes to go around.
That's true. That's true.
No, I actually wanted to ask you when we were talking about Second Amendment. You seem, you're a big 2A gal. You a shooter?
Mm-hmm.
Very hard in New Jersey. And the Supreme Court's made it a little bit easier to get a gun. You have to fill out an application for a permit to buy a gun.
Huh?
Yeah, you need a permit to buy a gun.
Wait,
Now,
wait,
if you,
Ron. So
yeah,
why? Why? Because you already have to go through the FBI background check when you purchase the gun. So why do you need a permit?
you're asking me why.
But there's
I
no
didn't.
permission needed. I'm confused. What needs to be permitted?
Firearms. Yeah, well, I'm going to throw it up there. Firearms, handgun purchase permit. Maybe maybe a long gun you can get without permission.
What?
Yeah. So share screen.
I'm far more effective and efficient with a shotgun. Why would you want me to defend my home with a shotgun over a 9mm or a 22? I'm confused.
This is what we have in New Jersey.
What is this? What is this anti-American nonsense? Hold on. Would you mind zooming in a little bit?
I would not.
Doth my eyes deceive me? What am I looking at? Have you applied?
So I started the application, and then I missed this fingerprinting appointment, as one will.
Yeah.
And which I thought was really obnoxious, because I was fingerprinted for the bar, in ancient times. They already have it on there. I don't know.
So the same Democrats who are saying that it's oppressive to have people show ID in order to exercise their right to vote are saying that this is not oppressive and
Right.
not a direct violation of the Second Amendment, which says, what is it? It shall not be infringed.
I don't know. It depends on where the comma.
What is this nonsense? Ron,
Okay.
I live in a constitutional carry state. I was going to get my concealed carry permit, and the law shifted or changed just like that same legislative session. So I said, well, screw that. And now I just carry all the time, every time, anywhere. I don't think about I don't think about it. I'm so scared that one of these days I'm going to accidentally drive into another state and I'm going to get in
Yeah.
big trouble
Yeah. No,
because
full faith and credit goes right out the window.
yeah.
Right out the window. But I mean, you can see policy wise what the dilemma is. I mean, if we believe in federalism, you can have a policy about the use of handguns, and as long as it's constitutional. If that policy is in and of itself constitutional, does it make sense that I can go to another state and then vitiate the policy?
No, because it's unconstitutional.
Because it's
on
going to
its
be
face.
unconstitutional, because you should just
It's
be able
already
to.
unconstitutional, Ron. This shouldn't exist.
I'm just throwing out what the thinking is. Right now, we're not there, and I don't know if we're ever going to get there. I believe it should be. You certainly should not be at risk of your liberty. If you're a licensed handgun owner in Pennsylvania, you drive into New Jersey, the idea that you could be, in prison for that, it's absolute tyranny.
It's terrifying.
Allegan News. Speaking of Megyn Kelly.
Hi, Allegan.
Interviewed Justice Gorsuch. She came out with more respect for him. We are going full potpourri here at this point, obviously. No, there's a segue. He has a new book, Overruled, about how we have too many laws and regulations. Well, we certainly do.
We do.
We certainly do. And thank you for the super chat there, Allegan. Megyn Kelly, though.
Hold on. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Somebody just said, why don't we let the states decide on gun rights like we do abortion and other matters? Do you care to explain the difference between certain rights that are protected in the Constitution versus certain rights that are not enumerated in the Constitution and why they're treated differently?
Well, I think you just explained it.
you have to explain it, Ron, because you're the genius of the two of us. And I would love for you to.
I may be, but first of all, you're no slouch, and second of all,
I am slouch.
You know some things that I don't know. I think but I mean, but really, in all seriousness, your question really explained it. It's a constitutional right. It's not up to the states whether to have more or less free speech, more or less free exercise of religion or petitioning of the government. What, in fact, the Supreme Court did with abortion was say, in 1973, this court made a mistake and put abortion into the category of a constitutional right, thereby removing from the states any say in the matter. That was a mistake. They did the same, made the same mistake. Get ready, Danny, with Obergefell, which again, you might like or not like the outcome, but as a matter of constitutional law, it's bullshit.
It is bullshit. I mean, unless you want to apply the right of privacy to everything, which the government is not inclined to do. It has no desire to recognize any sorts of rights of privacy somehow beyond abortion. And now Obergefell, I am sad to see Obergefell go.
But it's not gone yet.
It will go. And it's sad because they're going to instead codify a national right to same-sex marriage rather than codifying what is in Obergefell, which is adult parties, unless they're engaged in some what would otherwise be criminalized, can marry who they would like. And parties is plural, and they use terms like they, implying that polygamy would then be a right, a form of marriage, a lawfully accepted form of marriage.
We decided not to go down the polygamy.
I know, but you brought it up.
I know, because I really want to go down the polygamy rabbit hole.
Okay, please do. Because now I'm afraid if I offer an opinion at this point, it's going to get me in trouble.
Yeah, it will. So we might one of these days set up, well, like when we have massive streams with thousands and thousands of viewers, then we will have that'll be one of our conversations. Yeah. But I think right now it doesn't pay. What is it that Harmeet always says? The lemon's not worth the squeeze.
Oh, I like that.
Oh yeah, she's very wise.
Here's my opinion. Let the leftists go on their little polyandry trip. It's the leftists who are going to bring back polygamy. You want polyandry, you want polygamy, you want
they're barely andries though. I mean, these men, these soy boys. Can you just imagine? It's your night, Lance. Oh,
listen, Ron, don't ruin my hope and dream of starting a polygamous commune where I have an empire of men carrying out the work that I want them to do. So I'll have an attorney, a doctor, a businessman, a venture capitalist, a house cleaner, and a dedicated father role. And each will take over their respective duties, and they'll all have fun and play football in the backyard, right? Like,
and then you'll buzz one up when you're feeling frisky. Is that the idea?
Ron, you're trying to make sense of the senseless here. Just let me talk my nonsense.
I'm just a brain on a stick.
I'm just saying, if it works one way, why not make it work the other? I'm just saying, if you all want to make law, if you all want to make it so that the government has no business in your marriage, I am in favor of that.
And that goes back to where you and I agree when this came up 2 weeks ago is, yes. And I learned this from Jane, Mrs. Coleman, get the government completely out of this business, especially if you want to be a good libertarian and stop doling out money and benefits and all this crap through the government. The only justification for having the government involved in the Solomonization of matrimony is for, I mean, first of all, it's a vestige of a church and state unity. So then,
in a concept of women not having their own rights, right? So
yeah.
there's a property transfer. It's contractual in nature on the basis of women not having the same legal power as men would have. So, I mean, it is an older vestige. I don't see the value in asking the government for permission, just like I don't see the government granting permission or permitting you to own a firearm. The government has no business permitting you to marry who you would like. That's my own personal opinion. And I also think that all Americans should be forced to draft up a prenuptial agreement before they are married and take a class or two in marital economics and to understand what rights they lose and what rights they gain as a married couple. Primarily, I hope that people understand that you become one entity when you are married. Just like a business becomes a singular entity when it's made up of multiple people, so too does your marital estate and your marriage. You become one. You represent yourselves to the world and to others as an entity. So what could affect one partner affects you, whether you like it or
And
not.
the first thing you realize, by the way, gentlemen, is that what Danny just said is exactly how your wife, that's how the women view it. Okay. So
Like you
that
don't.
one entity, one entity. Honey, I'm going out. Where you going? I'm just going out. I just want to go out. One entity. Emil has a great idea.
Do you not like dogs?
I do.
You do. What kind of dog do you have?
I don't have a dog. I said
Why
I like dogs. Orthodox Jews very infrequently have dogs. It doesn't really fit well with the lifestyle.
Is it a cleanliness thing, I take it?
No, it's not ritual or cleanliness. It's just we're really busy raising lots of children who also have to be fed, and
Sure.
they don't have to be spayed. I mean, they're not allowed to be. But
They shouldn't be.
no, our religious lives are really quite full. And but I grew up with a dog. She was a very pretty mutt. My brother was in charge of dog maintenance, and I was never going to be that guy, training and walking, but I liked having her around, and I do enjoy dog videos. I'm amazed. The loyalty. I mean, I'm not going to be taken in by like dog facial expressions because
Do you
they're
mind
not.
if I open my door, by the way? Because he's sniffing outside right now. He's
Yeah,
so
no, let him
incensed
in.
that I closed the door. Thank you so
Let him
much.
in.
Keep going.
Yeah,
Keep
perfect.
going. I can hear you.
So yeah, I mean, look, they're not really facial expressions, right? We understand that they are they're just dog faces. I just
Yes.
want to make Allegan, thanks again for
You should
99.
you should look at my short really quickly before we move on from the dogs. Go to my channel. Go to my shorts, videos, short videos.
Oh, about your dog?
Yes. And I
Okay,
have
I'm there.
posted a video of my puppy being the cutest puppy on the face of this planet.
Okay, good. That would be a good. Oh, it's just okay. That's your short. That's it. You have
That's
a
it.
short.
I have one short, and it's my
Yeah.
baby.
You see that's dignified. I really have to respect that. Let's take a look here. We're gonna do the share screeny thingy, and away we go. Okay, this is what Danny's channel looks like.
He was really upset. I kept hearing him barking. I couldn't figure out what he was barking at. He kept bringing his toys to the mirror.
I gotta admit, this stuff gets me.
Watch this. He decides, okay, you don't like that toy. You don't want to play with me. Watch what he does. I tell him, I say, honey, he might not like that toy. Watch this. He goes, I have an idea. He gets his other toy.
I love this.
Is that not the cutest thing?
That is the cutest thing. I don't know what to tell you. The dogs get me. The dogs get me, and I mean, I should not really for the Ron Coleman persona. Animal videos should not do it, but that is just so cute.
Well,
and there's something about this idea that dogs, they're kind of doing like you can relate. Like, what if I were stupid enough to think that what I see in the mirror is someone else? What would happen? And I wanted to play.
yeah.
How would it go for me?
Well, kids do it all the time, right? So kids, as they're growing, sometimes little kids will look in the mirror or see a video of themselves.
Coleman children, yeah, maybe babies, but maybe babies.
Yeah, babies.
I mean, our babies, I think, tended to look away from the mirror, probably because they're all on the spectrum or something. This is what happens when people who are too smart marry each other.
I just love that you're so sensitive about animal, because that's my soft spot. Animal videos and animal husbandry and watching cute animals be cute.
It's so amazing to me what, I'm fascinated by the psychology of it, and but also, I mean, you see these amazing videos. This is, ladies and gentlemen, as we move into the last 10 minutes of the stream, we are approaching full banality. Okay. We're not even talking about the weather. We're these two intellectuals with law degrees who hold themselves out as opinion leaders of some kind are going to talk about doggy videos. The loyalty, it blows my mind. And you can say, well, it's not real love. It's a more instinctual. What you can say,
no, it's
whatever.
Scientifically proven that it is love. They've done MRIs, they've done brain scans on dogs, and all the same parts of the brain that light up with oxytocin, that release oxytocin, when we engage in not romantic, but deep connections with other human beings, and that bring us joy, specifically oxytocin. When dogs stare at their owners, oxytocin is released. In the same way that when we hug each other, oxytocin is released. So dogs do truly love us.
And cats don't.
Oh no, they actually harbor, they're one of the few animals that harbor resentment.
They're grifters. Cats are the grifter species.
Hold on.
It's all about them. It's all now. Having said that, in the rare occasion when I'll visit someone who has a cat, and if that cat will come and bound up and sit in my lap, I'm gonna pet that cat.
Cats are great.
And if that cat purrs, I'm gonna feel pretty good of it. I'm gonna feel pretty good about it.
With their little paws, they're so happy.
Yeah.
And then they bite you randomly and you're like, I don't know why you just bit me, but I get it. Cute aggression. It's okay.
Yeah. And Torgo's bringing up a good point in the chat. I mean, obviously this is what they're bred for. Exactly how that, you say you're interested in animal husbandry. So you have some understanding as to how you breed for
pointers point, retrievers retrieve. You name it. Hound dogs sniff, they hunt, they do what you've bred them to do. I had a border collie that I trained to do sheep herding. The dog just did it. There's not a lot of training required. And terriers are not for everybody. Terriers are definitely a specific breed for a specific group of people. Turns out Teddy Roosevelt, we're in good company, by the way, Ron. Teddy Roosevelt had basically a zoo in the White House, and his favorite dog, Skip, he was a little terrier mix.
Teddy Roosevelt.
He's complicated. I want to love him so much, but it's difficult because of what he did at the end of his political career and how it precipitated the events that followed.
Yep.
And the travesties that happened here in America.
That's true. That's
can
right.
be directly related to Teddy, but that's unintentional. I mean, the guy, for what he did, incredible. absolutely an American hero. Go do your research, people. You will fall in love with Teddy Roosevelt, but it is complicated.
Yeah, and I think Republicans who have any interest in history have a problem with him because, as Stormcrow points out, he was a progressive. He was a reformer. There and it does be, he does help get us up the slope of the liberal state that his cousin would eventually drag us to the very top of, or at least what looked like the top at the time. I just want to read this chat from Island.
Island.
Studies have shown, she said to Mimsy, that if you die alone with your cat, they'll eat you immediately, whereas a golden retriever will starve.
Okay, here's the issue I take with that. My sister, I actually know for a fact that is not true in all cases, certainly not true in all cases. My sister, when she passed away, the cat went into hiding and would not come out and died not long after. It was very sad when my sister died. And it spiraled into a little bout of depression, stopped eating. I had a friend who adopted her. She owned a really nice barn up in the mountains, and I wanted the cat to live out a good life up there. At the time, I'm deathly allergic to cats. I love kitty cats, but I can't have them in my life. And so I adopted her out, and unfortunately, she stopped eating and passed. So cats are very sensitive to their people. Once they pick their people, they love them a lot.
No, that's my understanding also.
Yeah.
But dogs are American pets.
1,000%. They are man's best friend, and we have bred them to be that way. And that's perfectly fine with me. They're complacent. They're so happy that you are happy with them. That is why I love dogs. They it probably feeds my God complex, to be honest. That's probably why I love dogs so much, is because I feel like,
because you are the master.
I am the master, and this dog relies on me. This dog's world. It's funny. We live 100 years, Ron. These dogs live max, 20 years? So while he is my everything for now, I am his actual world till the day he dies. And that is something that should be treasured and cherished, and is just a really beautiful thing. And it's when your dog chooses you, and that's something special. So, because you can own a dog and your dog might hate you. That has happened. I know people whose dogs just don't prefer them. They prefer other people in the house. They don't really give two craps about the other people. It just depends. Like my dog loves other people, but my dog definitely is my dog. But maybe that's because I'm a terrier person, huh? I need you to just love mommy only, huh? Yes. Ooh, good boy. You want to come on up? You want to say hi?
Yeah. Come on, let's see.
Come here. Why don't you say hi to Ron?
Can you believe that Ron Coleman has come to this, ladies and gentlemen?
He's a dirty boy. He needs a bath and a haircut.
So that is one problem with the dog.
Yeah.
Is that grooming wise, they require a great deal of intervention. The cat pretty much takes care of herself.
Yes, you can leave a cat at home with food and water and take off for 3 weeks and it'll be fine. It'll be just fine. You don't need a cat babysitter. You do need a dog babysitter. Yeah.
Well, I don't have a segue to bring us back to the topic of Tim Walz, except to say that if Kamala Harris had chosen a cat as the vice presidential nominee, we would for sure be better off.
Listen,
in every respect.
I am all for the cat. Single cat ladies, shout out to you. Okay. You, just like I'm a married terrier person. Okay. This is my breed of choice. They're spunky. They're tenacious. They don't give up. They're very loving. They're very independent and simultaneously very needy. They remind me of me, Ron, a lot. So that's probably what it is. But to all those cat ladies out there, good for you. love your cats. I'm okay with it. Birds are also excellent, but birds freak me out. I've owned hawks and blue and gold macaws and conures and every bird out there I've owned. I feel like you can't tell what they're thinking by facial expression because they just don't have a lot of facial expression.
And
So
they don't
you
have a
have
lot of thinking.
They have incredible thinking. They're one of the
Birds?
smartest animals besides humans.
Birds?
Yes, particularly ravens. They can handle all sorts of complex puzzles. Ravens, there was a study done out at Harvard where they were studying raven.
Oh, yes, I remember
Society.
that. That was freaking scary.
Well, because the student ended up
revenge over
suing.
generations, right?
Yes. He ended up getting dive bombed and harassed by these ravens for years. And so he ended up suing, I think, the school as a result because it caused him tremendous stress.
Let's see if I can find that. Crows, the ravens. All right. I'm not going to find it.
I
yes.
think you have to search like murder of crows scared by mask wielding student and it will probably come up.
Murder. Oh, it was crows, not ravens.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the student screwed up. He took his mask off before getting in the car. But I mean, he didn't know that the birds would follow him after he had already put on the mask and gone in the house. He should have taken off his mask either in the building or after he had already returned home. Cockatoos are very smart. They're also really neurotic in my experience, but very sweet birds. I like cockatoos a lot.
Well, I don't want to have anything to do with them. I like eating them, not crows, but birds. I like almost any kind of chicken. Chickens are really stupid. But I do like animal videos. There was a cat. I saw a video with a cat trying to corner a mouse. And he was being a cat, toying with the mouse. And along came a chicken, this must have been on a farm, and just said, yeah, right. And just stuck his neck out, or her neck out, I think it was a hen, and gobbled that mouse right up. Cat's like, hey, I'm being a cat, mouse. Chicken said, I eat anything I can eat.
They follow the path of their ancestors, the dinosaurs.
When I found out about the bird dinosaur thing, because that's new. That's relatively new. And then every time I see a bird. What?
That's a new.
When I grew up, dinosaurs were reptiles. And sometime in the last couple of decades, they said, if you look at a bird and you look at a dinosaur skeleton, and
identical.
Also it's creepy. And it was, my dad used to tell me about the dinosaurs. I'm not that old. Guys, it's been an incredible simulation of reality once again. Thank you for joining us. We got 2,330 friends with us. Most of them are on Twitter. Cheap bastards such as they are. But yeah, that's what right. 2,133. And I just want to say on YouTube, it's pretty pathetic. You got 107 viewers, Danny, on YouTube.
I used to have like 150, and then I think they spread over to your channel. And
I got
we lost some when we started talking about polygamy. I'm not sure, but
I don't know. I've got 20. So I've got this massive X, which makes me who cares? The whole thing is the main thing is your health. Okay. It's 11 o'clock. We try to keep it to 2 hours. Guys, we're going to do it again in a couple of weeks. Danny, great. Hanging out again.
Thank you.
See you guys. Good night.